Welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Report. I'm Jarret Johnson, and it's deja vu time for Texas Tech as they have another opportunity here, as Coach Wells and the Red Raiders have been talking about, to stack success. Texas Tech hasn't won back-to-back Big 12 games in the Wells era, but look, they're 5-2. They're overall they're 2-2 in the Big 12, and Kansas State comes in reeling, having lost 3 games in a row. They start off the season 3-0 in non-conference, looked really good. That win over Stanford, I watched that. They looked strong, but they've lost the first 3 games in Big 12 play. So they're riding a 3-game losing streak. So both these teams are really hungry for a victory. They really need a win Saturday, which is probably the most intriguing part of this game, is the fact that neither one of these teams are lacking for motivation. You know, I mean, if Texas Tech gets a win, they're bowl eligible for the first time since 2017. They're 6-2 overall, 3-2 in the Big 12. Now they have a really tough final third of the schedule remaining, but at least they already have in their back pocket, look, we're bowl eligible. I mean, come on, we have some momentum. We have won some Big 12 games. We have beaten some teams now. So, you know, anything can happen. I mean, at that point, really, if you only win 1 or 2 of those final games, I mean, it's one of the best seasons in some time in Raiderland. So that's huge for them. And, of course, Kansas State wants to get off the snide. I mean, 3 straight losses is what it is. It's interesting. I asked Coach Wells in the Tuesday press conference, you know, like, look, you know, this is deja vu. It feels like just like TCU, which obviously that opportunity did not go well. Same thing with Texas. They went into that game in Austin, you know, feeling good, but got crushed. So those 2 losses. Though Tech is 5-2, to give it context, of course, I'm not telling Red Raiders fans anything they don't know. They've been really bad losses. Those were, I think most fans would describe them as humiliating losses to in-state rivals, and I think both of them were on national television. So this game, oh, by the way, 11 a.m. Central Time here at the Jones in Lubbock, and it will be televised on FS1, so you don't have to worry about ESPN Plus like last week with Kansas. But speaking of Kansas, I'm going to go back to the keys. I was telling you about how I talked to Coach Wells and said this was a deja vu opportunity. But first, I want to acknowledge, because I think it's important. I acknowledge the failings. We got to be honest, I believe, about where the program is, and so when they have those crushing defeats, I mean, we got to analyze like what happened. Why did this happen? But I think we also need to recognize the fact that this team. There's the one difference with this team for me in a positive manner. That I've seen is it's been resilient. I mean, you look at the first game against Houston, they had a lot of adversity, but they came back in the second half and crushed the Cougars, and the Cougars have been pretty good since then. So that was actually a quality win. You know, Stephen F. Austin, look, that was a bad game, and they played so poorly in so many areas. But in the end, they did make that stand inside their own 10. They got the W, and a lot of teams, I mean, there are several teams this year that lost to FCS schools, so they avoided that which would have been a catastrophic loss, let's face it. And then, so, you know, look, they got blown out by Texas and Austin, and it was ugly. I'm not making any excuses about that. But they bounced back with that win in Morgantown against West Virginia. Not a good team, but still, on the road, Tech had so many people out. It was that showed resiliency. So then, I was talking about opportunity. Fan base was getting excited about what could happen. TCU coming to town, and then it wasn't competitive at all. TCU just steamrolled the Red Raiders. So it's like, and then you're like, well, heck, could they even beat Kansas at this point? Or is it going to be a close game like it's been the last 2 years, where Kansas won 2 years ago in Lawrence, and then last year, I mean, Tech barely won. They won by 3 points, and it was close at the end of the year. So, but Tech went in and handled their business. The game was never in doubt. It was 41-0 with a couple minutes left. Kansas got a couple of garbage touchdowns against Tech's, second and third team defense. So they looked good. I know it was Kansas. I'm not saying bring on Bama or anything like that. I'm just saying, calling it for what it is. They have been resilient. I mean, this coaching staff has not lost the players. On one hand, these players didn't show toughness at all. I think I even said like jockless in terms of defending the run and on defense, especially against TCU, but certainly against Texas. But on the other hand, they have shown a lot of toughness and the resiliency. So, I mean, I'm calling it like it is. So now, here's another test for them. Kansas State, this is a team that is more than capable, despite its recent struggles, to line up and run over you. Deuce Vaughn is a very good running back. Coach Wills mentioned that today. He's a pro, and I agree with him. Deuce Vaughn's going to be an NFL running back. Skylar Thompson, I know he's often injured. He's been injured this year, but he's come back. He's running a little bit more, and he has tore Tech up in the past. So, I mean, the Red Raiders haven't beaten Kansas State since 2015. So, I mean, there's a lot of challenges for Texas Tech. They're going to have to play very well. They're going to have a different game plan than they had against TCU, and they're going to have their stuff together in terms of being aligned and in the right gap and know the fit responsibilities and all that a lot better than they did against Texas, or Kansas State will come into the Jones and run over them. It's that simple. But if they can do that, if they could at least limit the Deuce Vaughns, all the running backs, just their running game, and compete in the passing game enough. I mean, I know they're going to give up some stuff, especially if they sell out to stop the run, but if they can just compete, show some of that toughness, that resiliency that I was just mentioning against Kansas State, I think the offense is going to have a lot of opportunities for success as well against a Kansas State defense that has really struggled. I actually exchanged 5 questions with Ryan Gilbert at our brother sister company, the Kansas State 24/7 site, and he does a really good job. And I asked him about their defense at gopowercat.com. He said, look, they're really struggling on defense. So, and they are. I mean, I've just watched some of their games, not all their games, but here recently, and I mean, I cover Tech, so I know struggling defense when I see it. And they're struggling. But the thing is how is this game going to start? How are the teams going to have to react and counter each other? And I think that's really important. So for me, here are my keys. Limit Kansas State's run. You're not going to stop them, but at least limit it to where they're not getting 8 yards a carry or whatever like we saw against TCU. I mean, you're going to have to still have to stop the run. Special teams, Coach Wells really stressed that on Tuesday. And I mean, Kansas State, it seems like they're always good at special teams, or at least in my lifetime, or several decades. Basically, since Bill Snyder went in and did his thing and really established that culture, and then it's carried over to Coach Kleiman. So Tech's gonna, and they've done well, like in terms of their coverage units, like against Houston, one of the top return men. I mean, all like Texas, TCU, those guys have good return men, and so far, knock on wood, Tech has done a good job with their coverage units, like a very good job. It's been impressive. So special teams, they can't give up some block punt. Austin McNamara can't hold on the ball too long. He's got to kick the ball. He's got to get it out off his foot when Tech does punt. And then Tech, their coverage teams have to play well. Fast start, like I said, huge. They have to get off to a fast start and dictate kind of the pacing of the game so that Tech's not playing catch up. They can really have a balanced offense, and perhaps Kansas State will be more apt to throw if they're trailing as opposed to just being comfortable running the ball 50 times. And then, limit the run. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but or Captain Obvious, but I mean, fast start, limit the run, and don't lose the special teams battle. At least go to a stalemate. And I think if you do those three things, Texas Tech's going to have an opportunity. I personally right now am going to believe it when I see it. I think Deuce Vaughn's going to have a pretty big game unless Keith Patterson changes some things in terms of putting more bodies in the box, which he showed some against Kansas. So we'll see how it plays against Kansas State. Putting an extra linebacker in the box could help. It could. I think Reggie Pearson coming back is huge as well. He's a physical guy. Good for the most part. He overruns some things trying to make the big hit, but he's a good tackler from the safety position, so that helps. So there are some reasons to believe that Tech, could pull off this win and get to 6-2, which, I mean, that would be, at that point you have to admit, okay, this has been a pretty good season so far. Let's see what happens against this tough gauntlet in the final third of the season. If they lose, it's kind of like, oh, where's that 6th win going to come? Then things start getting really tight here in Raiderland. So just a lot on the line. I acknowledge as well as for Kansas State, which makes it interesting to me. So I think Tech's a small favorite going into this. I think that open is like a 1 or 2 point favorite. So, I mean, this is basically a coin toss game. Who wants it more? Who's going to make those plays? Who's going to make the fewest mistakes? Which coaches are going to come up with the better game plans and then counteract off? We'll see. I'm truly. I'll say this: we're in the second half of the season, and I'm still interested and intrigued by Red Raider football, which hasn't always been the case in past seasons. So we'll see what happens. We'll be there, Mighty Joe and I, and we'll definitely have a lot of coverage leading up to it, and then, of course, after the game. So with that, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.